All right, running coach Emmet Dunleavy is with us now to chat about the BMW Run and Ride. Emmet, how are you getting on?
Good morning, lads. Very good.
Good stuff. So talk to us about how Team OTB have been getting on so far in the quest to run and ride well. What has been the biggest challenge from your perspective?
Well, looking at the training from week one, it looks pretty intense for a start, I'd say.
Right.
You've started off with plenty of enthusiasm and gusto. I suppose my advice for you guys and for most people who are undertaking this, particularly if you're starting from a non-endurance background, is probably to treat this as 5 weeks of training and 1 week of a hard effort at the end, so that you've got effectively that final week is your race, and that the first 5 weeks are training as opposed to trying to prove your fitness every single week. The key takeaway, I think, from looking at your training last week is probably that most of you need to slow down, which is slightly counterintuitive for people who are not involved in endurance sports before. But by slowing down that little bit more, you make the training a bit more sustainable. There's less of an injury risk, and ultimately what you're looking for in these situations is that you provide a small training stimulus, but that it's manageable and that you can build on that over the medium to long term. So it might be something that you'd like to hear, but I think for most of you, it's a case of slowing down a little bit over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Does that tell you with your thinking, Nathan?
Well, absolutely, because I made a very silly mistake last Wednesday. So I've been, for the last couple of months, like a lot of people, going out doing a couple of 5Ks a week, and I'm like, I'm not fast, I'm like 26, 27 minutes. But because last week the training was 3K, I thought, you know what, I'll tear into this for the 3K and see, can I finally get under 5 minutes per kilometre? And I'm coming around the last bend, nearly home, and I feel the real tightening of my calf that, where are we now, 5 days on? It's still feeling a little bit tight. So yeah, and I was like 2 seconds outside my my time that I wanted to get either way. So yeah, I learned a lesson that maybe I shouldn't go that fast. You know, slow is the way forward for me. Get it done.
It's a pretty heartbreaking story.
It's very much a case of slow and steady. So what we'd like is, I guess, for you guys is to bottle that enthusiasm and keep that, that intent of trying to run your fastest time, but keep it for the final week of the program. And that over these next couple of weeks that you need to keep the intensity low. And probably the best gauge of intensity, without getting too much into the science in terms of heart rates and thresholds and stuff like that, which you'll probably learn beyond these 6 weeks, is the best gauge of intensity at this stage is basically how you're feeling. And in terms of your running effort, it should be a case of running at conversational pace. That if you're not able to have a chat when you're doing your run, that you're more than likely going a little bit too quick. And even though that's counterintuitive, that you will improve off that type of intensity, that's ultimately what works best for endurance sports. So for next week, don't worry too much about what's on the watch. Go by how you're feeling and try and keep the intensity that little bit lower, maybe like 4, 5, 6 out of 10. If it feels any more intense than that, then you're probably going too quick.
Yeah, you're dead right, Emma, because nobody likes to show off. So Shane Hannon, dear God, trying to humiliate all of us. Trying to humiliate all of us. What was it? 18 minutes, 30 seconds for a 5K.
Yeah. He didn't seem overly happy with that either, Emmet. Are you looking at that time when Shane Hannon comes up on your app and saying to yourself, God, we've got a very impressive runner here in the OTB ranks?
We might just siphon him off into triathlon or athletic once this 6-week program is over, and he might go full-time professional in the world of endurance sports as opposed to off the ball.
How big is the disparity? You're not going to name names here, but how big has the disparity been between the top and the lower echelons of our star athletes?
It's only week one. Let's not go naming names just yet. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So,
not literally though. You'll be happy to know, Nathan.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Owen, I won't be doing, because we're generally, I think all of us are using Strava to sort of track our runs, and I'm now tracking Emmet, and I saw he went for a run recently where I sometimes go for a cycle up the Dublin Mountains, and I'm not lying, he can run up the Dublin Mountains quicker than I can cycle up the Dublin Mountains. I've never seen anything like it. But like
that's
20K,
all going to change over the next couple of weeks.
I doubt it.
Over the next little while, Emmet, I think that's like a really good piece of advice for people to actually get into a rhythm where you're actually able to have a conversation while running. Is that something you would be advising to everybody, regardless of level, that is the way you should be training 4 or 5 weeks out from a run and ride? And then should you be getting yourself into a far more strenuous position the closer you get to the event?
Exactly. Like even for endurance, for elite athletes at the very high levels of cycling, swimming, running, triathlon, whatever it might be, the split of their weekly training is going to be 80% low intensity and 20% high intensity. And considering a lot of people who are taking on this program are probably coming from team sport backgrounds, that they haven't had team training for the last while. They might be, playing football, soccer, five-a-side, whatever it might be. They tend to have ticked the box in terms of high intensity and speed work over the course of their sport and career. And where they lack is on the endurance side. So that's what, over the next couple of weeks, that they need to work on the endurance as opposed to the speed. But like I said, even elite athletes will only touch on that faster, high intensity work, on maybe one or two occasions during the week, which might only constitute 15 to 20% of their overall weekly training.
So this is week 2 of training. It's run 3 kilometres, ride 10 kilometres, run 5 kilometres. How does that sound, Nathan?
Well, I'm going to go my own way on this this week because my calf is still a bit sore. So I'm just going to go heavy on the bike, I think, and maybe leave the running till later in the week till I've fully recovered. I don't know, unless you feel, coach, that I should, put the bit of pressure on and just see how the calf holds up to it, going a little bit of a slower pace.
No, I like that approach. You best to give the calf a few days of a rest. Probably a good gauge of when you're ready to go back running is a simple hop test that we use with a lot of athletes. If they've got a calf strain like that, is that until you can do 4 or 5 hops pain-free on that leg, then you're probably not in a position to go back running on it. So until you can do that hop test pain-free, get yourself onto the bike. You can do all of your aerobic development, just build your fitness on the bike over the next couple of weeks. It's the great thing about triathlon is that if you're injured in one discipline, that you've got 2 other disciplines that you can rely on in order to maintain your fitness. In your case, obviously with the duathlon, you've got 2 disciplines, but the bike will certainly complement your fitness. So yeah, over the course of the next couple of days, just get yourself onto the bike and only go back running when that calf feels back close to 100%.
Basically, the translation there is that there is absolutely no escape, no excuse whatsoever to not be doing something every day. Coach Emmet Dunleavy, thanks a million.
Thanks, guys. Best of luck with the training.
Just a reminder that OTB are partnering with BMW and Triathlon Ireland to take part in the Run and Ride for Pieta, which is a cycle and run challenge that is supporting Pieta House and proudly supported by BMW Ireland. So our team of OTB presenters are going to be taking on the challenge over 6 weeks with regular updates throughout, culminating in a live broadcast of the duathlon here on OTB AM. More nutrition advice. You've had our running advice there. There's going to be cycling experts over the next few weeks to give us some well-needed tips, and we'll have weekly prizes as well to give away courtesy of both BMW and Triathlon Ireland.